Area of a triangle, algebra 2, trigonometry regions. The area of a triangle. This is a formula that's given to us on our regions reference sheet. If I pull it up really quick. Here it is in the top left. So it's the first thing given to you, area of a triangle. Now notice that it's one, first of all, use the letter K for area, which you maybe would have thought they'd use capital A, but the problem with capital A is that we often use A to represent one of our angles that we see here, like sine A plus B and sine 2A. Like A is being used as an angle in this course, so we didn't want to do A equals because that would imply angle equals. So K is not a commonly used letter to represent an angle, so that's what we're using for area. And you may recall area of a triangle as 1/2 base times height for the area of a basic triangle, which is true, but the problem with 1/2 base times height is your base and your height have to be perpendicular to each other. So like down here is my base, my height would have to be here. But what if you don't have these measurements? What if you just have like this measurement, and like say this angle? Well, that's what this formula allows us to do. The 1/2 AB sine C is kind of like base times height. Um, AB is AB sine C is basically your base times height, and we're still doing half of it. We can get into why, but what's important here that I have written here is this requires two triangle sides and the included angle, and that's really important. So if I were to draw a picture of, say, triangle ABC, remember we use capital letters to represent sides A, B, and C. That would imply that this is side A because it's opposite angle A. This is side B, and this is side C. Now, to do the area of a triangle, this formula is saying AB times sine C. Lowercase a is side A. That is using, let me get my highlighter tool. Sorry that my tablet's being a little annoying right now. Trying to select a highlighter. Okay, so side A is this side, so we have that, and side B is this side, and then angle C, sine of angle C is this angle right here. So you see how it's kind of like side angle side, which you learned in geometry last year, and that's what you need to do area of a triangle is you need side angle side. You need the angle between the two sides, where the two sides meet. Now, this is a little confusing because it doesn't have to be AB sine C. It can be any two sides and the angle between. So this formula can also be written as 1/2, let's say, AC. And if I'm using sides A and C, the angle between them would be the third angle, B, the third letter. So you'll never have any repeating letters here as A, B, C. It could be AC and then sine B. It could be 1/2 CB and sine of capital A. You know, and a lot of times the problems won't even be numbered A, B, and C, like in this first example. It's just talking about measurements of sides and an angle between them. That's all we really need. So don't assume it's got to be I need side A, side B, and angle C. It's just any two sides, but it has to be the angle between them, the included angle, and that's what's really important. Because sometimes they'll give us pictures where I'll give you this side is 5, and this side is 12, and this angle is 27. I cannot do area of a triangle with this information right now. I would need this angle in here in order to use these two sides. If I wanted to use that 27 as my angle, then I would need this side along with the 12 to be the two sides and the angle between it. So make sure you don't fall for that trap, and we'll see that come up a couple of times. All right, so let's look at our first example. Two sides of a triangular shaped sandbox measure 22 and 13. So just draw a little triangle. It's not going to be drawn to scale. That's okay. So two sides measure 22 and 13. If the angle between those two sides is 55 degrees, so make sure it's the angle between them, what is the area of the sandbox to the nearest square foot? So here's your two sides angle between. So your area formula is 1/2 side times the other side times sine of the angle between them. Make sure your calculator's on degrees because this is 55 degrees. And you're going to use your calculator to do the work for you. So 0.5 times 22 times 13 times sine 55. And we're rounding to the nearest whole number is 117.1 is definitely going to be just 117. And so that is the answer there. Let me do a couple more quick examples for you. That's our reference sheet. Two sides and included angle of a parallelogram. Okay, are 18, 22, and 60. First of all, if I draw this picture, here's my parallelogram, and my sides measure 18 and 22. Now, what I know about a parallelogram is that the opposite sides are equal, so that would mean this is also 18 and this is also 22. And the included angle is 60 degrees. So that would make, let me change colors for the angle. This is 60 degrees. And I know this is also 60 degrees. Now, our reference sheet is not area of a parallelogram. It's area of a triangle. However, if I were to draw on a diagonal, what happens is that my parallelogram is simply two triangles. So all I need to do to change my formula from k equals 1/2 AB sine C, the way to change it for area of a parallelogram, area of a parallelogram, is I have two options. I can keep it 1/2 AB sine C and then just multiply it by 2 because a parallelogram is just two triangles. Right? We see that figure here. I have the triangle here. 18, 22, 60 degrees between, and then I have the same triangle here, 18, 22, 60 degrees between. So you could just take your area of a triangle and double it, or you could simply remove the 1/2 out of the equation and keep it side times sine of included angle. Because it makes sense, because instead of doing half of something and then timesing 2, well, the half and the times 2 cancel each other out. I'm not going to take half of it and then double it. So you could just take out the 1/2 for area of a parallelogram. So it's the same formula. So that's going to be k equals area of my parallelogram is 18 times 22 times sine of 60. Now this question also has a really important word in it which you really have to get in the habit of underlining, and that is exact. Because that's huge. Because if I type into my calculator 18 times 22 times sine 60, it is not going to give me an exact answer. 342.94, so on, so on, so on, so on. So this is not an exact answer. So what that means, anytime it says exact, the angle is going to be special. And sine 60 is a special angle, and you should know what that is. If you don't remember what it is, you can type it into your calculator, but sine 60 is radical 3 over 2. And that times 18 times 22. So I can simplify the numbers around it, like 18 times 22 is 396, and I could divide that by the 2 down here. So divided by 2 equals 198, and the radical 3 is still there. So my answer here would have to be 198 rad 3, and that is an exact answer. So when you see exact, your angle is going to be special, and they're going to want a radical type of answer. So always watch out for that. Never round unless the question says, rounded to the nearest, nearest square foot like that, or I think in this next problem it's saying nearest square foot. So if it tells you what to round to, then round. But if it says exact, then it's looking for something like this. So always watch out for that. And sine 60 you really should know. Okay, let's stop it there, and we'll practice this tomorrow. See ya.